Hey guys, in this video we'll be discussing about the unit circle. So what is a unit circle? A unit circle has two criteria. Number one, the center of the circle must be at the origin in a Cartesian plane. Number two, the radius of a unit circle is 1 unit, hence the name unit circle. A unit circle is divided into 4 quadrants. We have quadrant 1, 2, 3 and 4. And quadrant 1 is the top right, and then we go anti-clockwise. So 1, 2, 3, 4. In each quadrant, we have two angles that we are going to look at. One is called alpha, one is called theta. So what is alpha and what is theta? Alpha is the acute angle formed between a line in the quadrant and the x-axis, whereas theta is the angle formed between the line and the positive x-axis. So let's look at what I'm talking about here. Let's say we have a line in the first quadrant. So now alpha will be between the line and the x-axis, the acute angle. So this is alpha. Theta is the angle between the positive x-axis and the line. So from the positive x-axis to the line, this is theta. So let's look at the relationship between alpha and theta here. For the first quadrant, alpha is the same as theta. Alpha is equals to theta in the first quadrant. Right. Let's look at the second quadrant. For the second quadrant, once again, alpha is the angle, the acute angle between the line and the x-axis. So this is alpha. Theta is still the angle between the positive x-axis and the line. So theta will start from the positive x-axis, and this is theta. What's the relationship between alpha and theta here? You can see that alpha plus theta is equals to 180. Therefore, alpha will equals to 180 minus theta. Let's look at the third quadrant. Third quadrant, again same thing. This is alpha, the acute angle between the x-axis and the line. And theta, we start from the positive x-axis again. So theta will be from here all the way here. This is theta. So the relationship between alpha and theta here is that alpha is theta minus 180 degrees. In the third quadrant, alpha will be equals to theta minus 180 degrees. And finally, the fourth quadrant, alpha is here between the line and the x-axis, and theta will be from the positive x-axis. So from here all the way to here, this is theta. So what's the relationship between alpha and theta? They add up to 360. Therefore, alpha will be equals to 360 degrees minus theta. So this is how we get our alpha. Now we need to explore the relationship between sine theta, cos theta, tangent theta, and sine alpha, cos alpha, and tangent alpha. So let's do that. For this part, remember this: add sugar to coffee. How do we use this here? Let's start with quadrant 1. So first is add. So this is add. What do we mean by add? Add is for all positive. And what do I mean by all positive? Sine of theta will be equals to positive sine of alpha. The same goes for cos of theta, which is positive cos alpha, and tangent of theta, which is positive tangent of alpha. And then we go to the second quadrant, which is S, sugar. Add sugar. So sugar. Sugar stands for sine positive. So in the second quadrant, only sine theta will result in a positive sine alpha. The rest will be negative. So sine theta is equals to positive sine of alpha. However, cosine theta will be equals to negative cosine alpha, and tangent theta will be equals to negative tangent theta. Once we go to third quadrant, add sugar 2. So third quadrant, T, 2. 2 stands for tangent positive. So again, sine theta will be equals to negative sine of alpha. Cosine theta will be equals to negative cosine of alpha. However, tangent theta will be equals to positive tangent alpha. And then add sugar to coffee. Fourth quadrant is coffee. This one we have cosine as positive. Cos is positive. So here again sine theta will be negative sine of alpha. Cosine theta will be the only one positive. So cosine theta is equals to cosine alpha, and tangent of theta is equals to negative tangent of alpha. So this is what we are going to use to find the trigonometric function of angle. First, let's practice finding alpha. Determine the corresponding reference angle. The corresponding reference angle is alpha. This is what it is called for the following angles. So first, let's look at number 1, 35 degrees. The first thing you need to do is identify which quadrant the angle is in. So this is theta. This is theta. We need to identify the quadrant theta is in. How do we identify the quadrant it is in? Look at the range. Now, let's go back to the unit circle. So we can see in the first quadrant, the range of theta is between 0 and 90 degrees. And then the second quadrant, the range of theta is between 90 degrees and 180 degrees. In the third quadrant, theta is between 180 degrees and 270 degrees. And finally, in the fourth quadrant, theta is between 270 degrees and 360 degrees. So notice the range that we are using here is 0 to 360 degrees. Sometimes we will use negative 180 to positive 180, but that's not what we are using for this video. We are going to use 0 to 360 degrees. So these are the angles and their respective quadrants. Now let's go back to the example. 35 degrees falls between 0 and 90 degrees, therefore it is first quadrant. This is the first thing that we need to find out, because how we find alpha depends on which quadrant it is in. So in the first quadrant, we know that alpha is equals to theta, which means here alpha will be equals to 35 degrees. This is how we find alpha. Let's look at number 2, 96.8 degrees. So again, we need to find out which quadrant it is in. 96.8 degrees falls within 90 to 180, which is the second quadrant. So for the second quadrant, alpha will be equals to 180 degrees minus theta. So now we do 180 degrees minus 96.8 degrees, and we will get 83.2 degrees. Number 3, we have 188 degrees and 19 minutes. So this is in degrees and minutes. This falls in the third quadrant because it is between 180 and 270. So this is Q3. This was the second quadrant. So in the third quadrant, alpha will be equals to theta minus 180 degrees. Therefore, alpha will be equals to 188 degrees and 19 minutes minus 180 degrees. And this is 8 degrees and 19 minutes. Let's try number 5. 297 is in the fourth quadrant because it is between 270 and 360. In the fourth quadrant, alpha will be equals to 360 degrees minus theta. So this is equals to 360 degrees minus 297 degrees, and we get 63 degrees. Now that we know how to find alpha, let's relate it to the trigonometric function. So let's find the trigonometric function of alpha based on the trigonometric function of theta. Let's look at this question. Write the following as a trigonometric function of its corresponding reference angle. So again, corresponding reference angle refers to alpha. Number 1, sine 135. So as we did earlier, we need to find alpha first. This is in the second quadrant between 90 and 180 degrees, Q2. If it is in Q2, then alpha will be equals to 180 degrees minus theta. So here it is 180 degrees minus 135 degrees, which is simply 45 degrees. Then we go to sine 135 degrees. Sine 135 degrees. Now again we have to look at the quadrant. So it is in quadrant 2. We go back to add sugar to coffee. add sugar. In quadrant 2, sine is positive. Sine theta is positive sine alpha. Therefore, sine 135 will be equals to positive sine 45 degrees. So here we have theta and alpha. Sine theta is equals to positive sine of alpha in the second quadrant. Let's try number 2, cos 106.3 degrees. So cosine 106.3 degrees, first we look for alpha. 106.3 degrees also lies in the second quadrant. So we are looking at Q2 again. Alpha is still equals to 180 degrees minus theta, which is 180 degrees minus 106.3 degrees. And the answer you will get here is 73.7 degrees. Now we already established from question 1, add sugar. Quadrant 2, only sine is positive, which means cos will be negative. Cos of alpha will be negative of cos theta, which means cos of 106.3 degrees, this is theta, will be equals to negative cos of alpha, 73.7 degrees. So what I've done here again, let me show you, this is theta. I have done cos theta equals to negative cos alpha. This is what we were doing earlier. So this is for cos 106.3. Let's do one more. Tangent 268 degrees and 35 minutes. So 268 degrees and 35 minutes lies in the third quadrant between 180 and 270. So we are in Q3. Again, we need to find alpha. Alpha will be equals to theta minus 180 degrees. So we have 268 degrees 35 minutes minus 180 degrees, and we will get 88 degrees and 35 minutes. Again, we are in the third quadrant, add sugar 2. Third quadrant tangent is positive, which means tangent of 268 degrees and 35 minutes will equals to tangent 88 degrees and 35 minutes. Positive and positive. That's it for this video, guys. I hope you've learned something. If you have, please do me a favor and hit that like button. Thank you very much for doing that. It really does help me. If you enjoy videos like this, do subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.